Over the next few weeks, months, perhaps even years, I'm going to go through to every single spot that I think you should know about. Welcome to A Gentleman's London. So we are on number 66 Jermyn Street. We're at Emma Willis. Emma Willis is a shirt maker. It has been here since 1999. And Emma, the eponym, still runs the shop from here. And she is one of the great shirt makers of London. Now, shirt making as a profession is a particularly tricky profession, because in comparison to something like tailoring, where there's inlays and lots of room for error, there's no real error for shirt making. So when you go into shirt making, you have to be somebody who is always able to get it right. Now, I'm thrilled because we are lucky enough to have Emma here today, so we're going to have a chat with her now. So, as explained, we have the eponym of Emma Willis, the Emma Willis, MBE, here today. Emma, so lovely seeing you. We've known each other for a very long time. You've kind of watched me grow up. Thank you for having me along for an adult conversation. And I sort of explained at a kind of, I would say, a very rudimentary level as to what Emma Willis as a brand provides to gentlemen. But could you kind of explain from your point of view the shirts that you make, how they fit into the market, and what it is that you think you produce for men's wardrobes?
Well, I think the most important thing is we've developed a team of incredibly talented young craftspeople, and to have something made for you beautifully is what all our customers are loving and love, whether it's ready to wear or bespoke. I started all in bespoke for many years before I had the shop for 10 years. And so when we made ready-to-wear shirts, I wanted to make them in exactly the same way, just as beautifully as the bespoke shirts. So we've started with a core team of craftswomen and with our sewing and one male cutter. And we've now grown to about 30 people. I trained lots of young people. The most important thing is the make and the fabric and the cut, of course.
Yeah, and crucially, you dedicated the brand to made in England production by opening up a sort of factory in Gloucestershire.
Absolutely. English make is fundamental to me. I like being very close to the people who are making our clothes. With bespoke, there's so much communication between the pattern makers and the cutters and the seamstresses. So to me, that's just fundamental, and I wouldn't want to do it any other way.
And one extra sort of facet of Emma Willis, which is particularly both sort of noble and indeed was recognised by the state, was your contribution to the military with Style for Soldiers. Could I just ask you to explain briefly what Style for Soldiers is and why it is that you created it as a sort of an entity as part of your Emma Willis umbrella?
I had a programme on Radio 4 in 2007, and it was a documentary inside our military rehabilitation hospital, and it was interviewing two young men, one who'd lost his vision, one lost both his legs from very serious injuries serving their country in Afghanistan. And I was very, very moved by it and wanted to think of something I could do to help. And it occurred to me about a week later that I could go to the hospital. I'd made bespoke shirts for 10 years. I could make a shirt to fit anyone. So I would go there, and as a gift of gratitude, I would measure them all for a shirt. So I visited actually for 10 years, but predominantly at the height, I went very, very regularly for about 6 years and built up a big database now of the most wonderful and incredibly courageous young people. And we now have our big reunion parties as well, Style for Soldiers reunion parties, for them and their families and their partners.
That's terrific. Did you know that after the First World War there was something called the Men's Dress Reform Party? And it was a party that was set up with the idea that having beautiful clothes and dressing beautifully is a really great way of elevating self-esteem and sort of restoring people who'd seen such horrors to some sense of normality, the kind of, coming out of the uniform, as it were, and coming into civilian ways, but in a very dignified, elegant manner. They believed that it was a really great way of a part of rehabilitation, which to some extent you're now the descendant of, or you at least you're the continuing it.
Interesting. I hadn't heard of that. That's
There you go.
extremely interesting. And it was wonderful when I saw that, when they were in such a terrible place post these very terrible life-changing injuries, that they would take such interest in choosing what blue they had, or whether they had a button cuff or a double cuff, or the shape of their collar. And it was wonderful to see them, to be able to transport themselves, to think about that. And we had such fantastic letters and little messages and things and gifts and all sorts of things saying how it had helped raise their morale, help their self-esteem, and that was just music to our ears.
Marvellous. And one extra thing, which is a slightly, people don't necessarily know this, and it's a little bit self-indulgent of me to point it out, but there's a great coincidence between you and me, isn't there?
Certainly is.
Which involves my father. And so prior to you being at Jermyn Street, indeed, I think was it the first place you ever set up a store for shirts?
In the city, yeah. Yes, it's the first store I ever had.
My father had a health club in the city called Slim Jim's, and he opened it in 1970. Now, I don't think that was that early for you. It can't possibly have been. You're far too young for that. But you sold shirts to guys there. You made shirts for the members there.
Yes, your father let me set up a stall on Fridays when everyone was in a good mood, and it was on the corridor from when they come out of the gym to going out to enjoy their weekends. And so they'd been exercising. It was Friday. They were absolutely, endorphins soaring. And then I'd have all these beautiful shirts on a table, and they just couldn't resist buying them because it was all absolutely, completely planned and it was so great. It was
good.
So kind of your father. It was just, it was great fun, and I didn't have to pay a penny for it either.
Well, it was one of those great coincidences when I sort of started working in the industry, and it was always warmed my heart to know that he'd been so kind and generous, and as you have been so very kind and generous over the years. And thank you so much for allowing us in today to give everybody a kind of slight introduction to the brand. And certainly with regards to Star for Soldiers, there's a real standout reason for coming to shop here, because of course some of the proceeds of the purchase of shirts goes towards the charity. Is that right?
It does. We run all the charity from within the business, and the charity has no overheads at all.
There you go. Super. Well, thank you very much. So what I'm going to do just very quickly is pick out the top 5 shirts that every man ultimately should have for their wardrobe. And starting with this is your absolute classic dress shirt. So this is a white dress shirt, also known as a day shirt, depending on whether you're in the US or the UK. But this is designed in theory to go with suits and jackets and so forth, but ultimately obviously people wear them these days in a lot of different ways with no tie or whatever. But the white shirt, or I should say get a nice pale blue shirt as well, because it depends on whether you're going to be wearing, let's say, grey, for example, because grey goes much nicer with something like a pale blue rather than white, which is perfect for navy blue. Basically, everybody should have a navy blue suit, so everybody should have a white shirt. Next up, I picked this out because this is basically just a white and blue striped shirt. So it's the midpoint ultimately between the white day shirt and the blue day shirt, because what's really nice, I think, about a striped shirt is that if you are wearing a jacket, for example, that has patterns to it, I think it's really chic to also have some patterning on your shirt as well, rather than just kind of deaden the effect of patterns with just a single coloured shirt. And I picked this out. This is a flannel shirt, and the reason I picked this out ultimately is because casual shirting has become really important, I think, in the way people are dressing. I think people are inclined, if they are smart through the week, not to necessarily do the complete opposite when they get to the weekend or want to go out. They want to remain sartorial and have touches of elegance that something like this provides, because you don't necessarily have to go straight to a t-shirt or a tracksuit top. You can wear this to feel more relaxed and to feel slightly off, out of office, but at the same time remain nice and smart. Now, I've been over having a patterned shirt with the striped shirt, but this is slightly different because yes, this is a patterned shirt, but this is something you should be wearing in the countryside. A countryside shirt, everything you wear in the countryside, in theory, should be designed to blend in with the surroundings. Now, if you went up to various parts of Scotland, you would find lots of different colours. You would find in the southern borders, for example, there's a lot of granite and stone, and so you'd find a lot more grey colours. Houndstooth, the original houndstooth, which is black and white, is also known as border check because that's meant to match the surroundings it came from. But something like this country shirt, you would see, you know, gamekeepers, country skies, this is what they would all be wearing in the countryside, just as a sort of mark of respect for the territory they're in. And when you go outside the M25, if you're visiting the UK, you should make sure you have one of these with you. Now, in any proper bespoke shirt shop, you will see something like this, which is an unusual thing to see in the wild, and it's collars off a shirt. But ultimately, this is the service that somewhere like Emma Willis provides, which is that you can choose the kind of collar that you want to go with your shirt. So if you want to go with the classic Emma Willis collar, you would get the classic. If you want to go button down, you can go button down. I like button downs just as a casual shirt, so you know you would probably choose it to go with a very particular, you know, Oxford fabric, for example, which is something you would be able to choose as you go through the process of bespoke, where you get your measurements and then you pick the fabric that you go for. And then something like a cutaway. Now, a cutaway is terrible for someone like me. You need to be a lot skinnier and a lot less broad-shouldered and a lot thinner head. But if you have the physical properties that work well with something like a cutaway collar, they will put that on for you. So bespoke shirt making, you know, it's more limited than something like a jacket, because jacket have all these bits and bobs in terms of pockets and all these sorts of things that you can add. But it's really important that a shirt is made properly for you in terms of highlighting your facial features, your jawbone, your neck. So this is just a small example of what I'm talking about. So this is the classic Emma Willis collar, slightly pointed out, but not too much. It is your kind of really beautiful classic collar without feeling like you're trying to be eccentric in any kind of manner. And it's about a 4-inch spread in terms of between the points. Now, this is how shirt making is really intricate in terms of the fact that it works very much, not 2 inches, but fractions of an inch. Whereby for this spread collar, for example, it is a mild spread, but it is still spread collar. And we go from the classic collar, which is 4 inches between the points, to 4 3/4. So it's only 3/4 of an inch difference. But that entirely changes in terms of the way that your face will look. So you need to be kind of aware about what works best for you, but crucially also with something like this is that when you have that kind of distance between the collars, you can wear it open or closed with a tie. It kind of crosses both a more casual wear with shirts and a more formal one. You get to see a little bit more, so something like, wait, damn it. It got caught. Emma is, no, start that again, okay.